What if I told you that Japanese farmers have been growing abundant food in volcanic ash, rocky mountain slopes, and depleted soil for over 2,000 years without synthetic fertilizers? That certain plants actually produce more when stressed by poor conditions? Traditional Japanese agriculture selected crops that thrive where others fail. And today, I'm going to show you 10 of them. Daikon radish, giant white radishes that cost $3 to $5 each at Asian markets and grow in soil so poor other vegetables refuse to germinate. Raphanus sativus var. Longipinnata sends taproots 2 to 3 feet deep, drilling through compacted clay while producing food. Japanese farmers have cultivated daikon for over 1,000 years because it grows reliably in mountain soils too rocky for rice. Plant seeds directly in late summer for fall harvest or early spring for summer harvest. Varieties like Miyashige grow 18 inches long in 60 to 70 days. Your poor compacted soil becomes productive with crops that work as living tillers. Shungiku. Edible chrysanthemum that grows in rocky, poor soil where lettuce fails and provides unique aromatic greens for Japanese hot pots. Glebionus coronaria tolerates nutrient-poor conditions because it evolved in Mediterranean rocky soils. Japanese cooks consider Shungiku essential for sukiyaki, the distinctive flavor irreplaceable. Direct seed or transplant in spring or fall, harvest as cut and come again green. The flavor is aromatic, slightly bitter, and complex. Asian markets sell bunches for $2 to $3, but seeds cost pennies. Your rocky, neglected corner produces gourmet ingredients most Americans have never tasted. Mizuna, feathery Japanese mustard that survives in depleted soil where cabbage struggles and provides peppery greens in just 40 days. Brassica rapavar. Nipposinica originated as a Kyoto heirloom in the 16th century. The deeply serrated leaves grow in attractive rosettes. Mizuna tolerates cold to 15 degrees, making it valuable for fall and winter harvests. Direct seed in spring or late summer, begin harvesting within 30 days. Grocery store mesclun costs $6 to $8 per pound, while Mizuna grows for pennies. Your exhausted garden bed becomes productive with crops adapted to challenge. Shiso, aromatic perilla, that volunteers in poor soil like a weed and provides essential herbs for Japanese cuisine. Perilla frutescens grows wild along roadsides throughout Japan, self-seeding aggressively. Green shiso wraps sushi and flavors tempura with a unique minty basil anise flavor. Red shiso colors umeboshi plums. Direct seed after the last frost and it germinates within weeks, then self-seeds forever. Asian markets charge $3 to $5 for small bunches, but once established, shiso volunteers year after year. Your poorest soil corner becomes a permanent herb garden requiring zero maintenance. Edamame. Fresh soybeans that fix their own nitrogen while producing high-protein food in soil too, depleted for other crops. Glycine max, harvested at an immature stage, has been cultivated in Japan for 2,000 years as an essential summer snack. The plants are legumes that form root nodules housing nitrogen-fixing bacteria, actually improving soil while growing. Edamame tolerates poor soil because it creates its own fertility, pulling nitrogen from air and converting it to plant-available form. Plant seeds after frost danger passes, space 4 to 6 inches apart, and harvest when pods plump and turn bright green at 75 to 90 days. The high protein content and complete amino acids make edamame nutritionally valuable beyond typical vegetables. Boil pods briefly in salted water and eat beans directly from pods as traditional preparation. Varieties like Sayamusum and Envy produce reliably in marginal soil. Grocery stores charge $4 to $6 per pound for frozen edamame, while fresh homegrown tastes completely different, sweeter, and more complex. Your nitrogen-depleted soil becomes fertile again as edamame fixes atmospheric nitrogen for following crops. Japanese knotweed, controversial plant that thrives in toxic contaminated soil, grows through concrete, and produces edible shoots like lemony asparagus, but comes with serious ethical considerations. Fallopian japonica tolerates heavy metals, salt, extreme pH, flooding, drought, and conditions that kill everything else because it evolved in volcanic Japanese mountain slopes. The deep rhizomes mine nutrients from 10 feet down and spread aggressively, which is why it's banned as invasive species in many Western countries. Traditional Japanese culture eats young shoots under 8 inches tall as sansai, or mountain vegetables, prized for tart lemony flavor similar to rhubarb. The shoots contain resveratrol, the same antioxidant compound found in red wine and grapes. Modern research explores knotweed for phytoremediation, using it to extract heavy metals from contaminated industrial sites. Here's the critical ethical point. Do not plant Japanese knotweed. It destroys ecosystems, damages infrastructure, and costs billions in control efforts. However, if it already grows on your property or in your area, the young shoots are excellent food that would otherwise go to waste. Harvest shoots in spring when 4 to 8 inches tall, peel the outer skin, and cook like asparagus in stir-fries, soups, or pies. The flavor is distinctively tart and the texture tender when young. Some foragers make knotweed the centerpiece of their spring wild food harvesting because established stands produce prolifically without any care. The plant demonstrates extreme adaptation to poor soil, but the invasive nature means responsible harvesting from existing populations only, never introducing it to new areas. Your contaminated soil may already host this edible that most people consider only a problem, when young shoots represent free food thriving in conditions nothing else tolerates. Udiu, prized Japanese mountain vegetable that grows in rocky volcanic slopes and commands premium prices as a gourmet delicacy. Aralia cordata evolved in poor mountain soils where deep taproots access subsoil nutrients that surface roots cannot reach. Traditional Japanese culture considers udo essential sansai, or mountain vegetable, both wild harvested and cultivated for centuries. The perennial plant returns annually from deep roots without requiring fertilizer, amendments, or care beyond harvesting. Young shoots emerge in spring and are traditionally blanched by mounding soil or growing in darkness to produce tender white stems. The flavor is unique, aromatic, slightly bitter, complex in ways that common vegetables are not. Japanese markets charge $20 to $40 per pound for fresh udo because cultivation requires skill and the season is short. All parts are edible, including young shoots, leaves, and flower buds, each prepared differently in traditional cuisine. The plant tolerates shade, poor drainage, and rocky conditions that defeat most vegetables. Modern cultivation outside Japan remains rare, making udo a specialty crop for adventurous growers. Plant crowns in spring, allow to establish for 1 year, then begin blanching shoots the following spring. The shoots emerge rapidly once temperatures warm, requiring daily checking during peak season. Peel the outer skin from blanched shoots and use raw in salads, cooked in tempura, or pickled for preservation. The distinct flavor has no Western equivalent, occupying a unique culinary space. Your rocky, neglected slope becomes productive with a perennial crop that requires no inputs and produces gourmet food worth more per pound than most vegetables. Japanese persimmon, ancient fruit tree that produces 100 to 300 pounds of sweet fruit in poor clay soil, where apples and peaches struggle. Diospyros kaki has been cultivated for 2,000 years in China and Japan, selected for tolerance of volcanic mountain soils and minimal care requirements. The deep taproot seeks water and nutrients from subsoil, making established trees remarkably drought-tolerant and productive without fertilizer. Two main types exist: astringent varieties like hachiya that must soften completely before eating, and non-astringent varieties like fuyu that are crisp and sweet like apples. Japanese tradition dries astringent persimmons as hoshigaki, a labor-intensive process creating concentrated sweetness that stores for months. The trees live 100 years or more, producing reliably in soil too poor for most fruit trees. Hardy to Zone 7, persimmons tolerate cold winters but need warm summers for fruit ripening. Plant bare root trees in spring, provide minimal water the first year for establishment, then ignore them. Trees begin fruiting in 3 to 5 years and increase production as they mature. The fruit ripens in fall, often after leaves drop, creating a spectacular ornamental display of orange fruits hanging from bare branches. Fresh persimmons contain high tannins when unripe, making them inedible and mouth-puckeringly astringent. As fruits ripen, tannins become insoluble and sweetness develops. Fuyu types are harvested firm and eaten crisp. Hachia types must soften to jelly consistency for the astringency to disappear. Modern Americans rarely encounter persimmons outside specialty markets where they cost $3 to $5 each, yet trees produce hundreds of pounds with zero inputs. The beautiful fall foliage adds ornamental value beyond the fruit production. Your poor clay soil that defeats stone fruit becomes productive with long-lived tree adapted to challenging conditions from centuries of cultivation in difficult Japanese mountain environments. Japanese mountain yam. Climbing vine that produces edible tubers 3 to 4 feet deep in rocky volcanic soil where potatoes fail. Dioscorea japonica and related species evolved in Japanese mountains, adapted to poor rocky conditions through deep tuber growth. Traditional Asian cultivation spans 3,000 years with mountain yams considered both wild food and cultivated crop. The vines climb without support structure, tolerating shade and poor fertility while producing underground. Aerial bulbils form along the vines, dropping to create new plants vegetatively without flowering. Japanese cuisine uses mountain yam raw, unlike Western yams that require cooking, grating it into tororo with a distinctive mucilaginous texture. The slippery texture comes from beneficial compounds including digestive enzymes and prebiotics that support gut health. Growing mountain yam presents challenges because the tubers grow straight down 3 to 4 feet, making harvest difficult without breaking them. Traditional cultivation uses deep trenches or angled planting to make harvest easier. Plant bulbils or tuber pieces in spring after frost danger passes, provide climbing support, and harvest in fall after vines die back. The tubers store well through winter and cool conditions. Varieties include long nagaimo, round yamatoimo, and wild jinenjo that grows in forest understory. Asian markets charge $8 to $12 per pound for fresh mountain yam because cultivation is labor-intensive and availability limited. The unique texture and raw edibility create culinary possibilities unavailable with other yams and potatoes. Your rocky soil, too poor for regular root crops, becomes productive with ancient crops adapted to mountain conditions and minimal fertility. Japanese sweet potato. Purple-fleshed sweet potatoes that actually produce more in poor sandy soil than in rich garden beds. Ipomoea batatas. Japanese cultivars evolved in poor tropical soils and were introduced to Japan from China in the 1600s, where they saved populations during famines by producing in conditions too harsh for rice. The key insight is that sweet potatoes produce more tubers when stressed by poor soil and drought. Rich, fertile soil creates excessive vine growth with fewer smaller tubers. Sandy, depleted soil forces the plant to focus energy on tuber production as a survival strategy. Japanese varieties differ from American sweet potatoes, with drier texture, intense sweetness, and purple flesh options rich in anthocyanins. Traditional yakiimo or roasted sweet potato remains popular Japanese street food, the aroma nostalgic for generations. The historical context reveals why Japanese sweet potatoes became cultural treasure. Introduction in the early Edo period coincided with frequent famines caused by rice crop failures. Sweet potatoes produced reliably in sandy coastal soils unsuitable for rice cultivation. Kyushu Island, particularly Kagoshima Prefecture, adopted sweet potatoes enthusiastically because volcanic sandy soils perfect for the crop. During the devastating Tenmei famine of 1782-1788, sweet potato cultivation saved countless lives. The cultural memory of sweet potatoes as survival food persists even as modern Japan enjoys food abundance. Japanese breeding focused on different qualities than American selection. American sweet potatoes prioritize moist orange flesh that bakes into soft consistency. Japanese varieties emphasize drier texture, more intense sweetness, and diverse flesh colors including white, yellow, orange, and deep purple. The drier texture suits Japanese cooking methods and preferences. Beni Haruka, meaning beautiful spring fragrance, exemplifies modern Japanese breeding with exceptional sweetness and smooth texture. Murasaki sweet potato has purple skin and white flesh with chestnut-like flavor. Okinawan sweet potato reverses this with tan skin, hiding a vibrant purple interior packed with anthocyanins. The stress-produces more phenomenon fascinates gardeners used to fertilizing heavily. Sweet potato vines respond to rich soil and abundant water by growing massive foliage, spreading 10 to 15 feet with lush leaves. Underground, however, tuber production decreases because the plant invests energy in vegetative growth rather than storage organs. Poor sandy soil with minimal water triggers a survival response. The plant senses stress and focuses energy on reproducing through tubers rather than spreading vines. The result is compact vine growth with heavy tuber production. Yields of 5 to 10 pounds per slip are normal even in poor soil, sometimes exceeding what rich soil produces. Plant slips, rooted cuttings from mature sweet potatoes. After all, frost danger passes and soil warms. The vines spread aggressively, covering ground and suppressing weeds without care. Minimal water and zero fertilizer actually increase yields compared to pampered plants. Harvest before first frost when vines begin to yellow, carefully digging tubers to avoid damage. Cure harvested sweet potatoes in warm, humid conditions for 10 days, converting starches to sugars and healing any cuts. Properly cured Japanese sweet potatoes store for 6 to 12 months, actually getting sweeter during storage. The greens represent an underutilized resource in Western gardening. Okinawan cuisine features sweet potato leaves and vine tips as vegetables, stir-fried or added to soups. Research shows sweet potato greens contain exceptional levels of vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants, rivaling or exceeding many cultivated greens. The leaves regrow after cutting, allowing harvest throughout the growing season without impacting tuber production. Some Asian communities grow sweet potatoes specifically for greens, treating tubers as a secondary crop. Yakimo culture demonstrates the deep relationship between Japanese people and sweet potatoes. Street vendors roast sweet potatoes in special ovens, the sweet aroma wafting through neighborhoods. The traditional cry, "Yaki-imo," announced the vendor's presence, creating nostalgic memory for generations. Modern convenience stores sell roasted sweet potatoes year-round, but traditional street vendors persist because the experience connects to cultural memory. The slow roasting caramelizes sugars, creating flavor and texture impossible with other cooking methods. Varieties like Murasaki, Okinawan, and Beniharuka offer different colors and flavors. Grocery stores charge $2 to $4 per pound for organic sweet potatoes, while your sandy, neglected soil produces abundantly. The cultural significance in Japan reflects real survival value as crop that thrives when conditions challenge everything else. Your worst soil, sandy and depleted, becomes most productive with crop adapted through centuries to turn adversity into abundance. These 10 Japanese plants prove that poor soil is not a limitation, but an opportunity to grow crops specifically adapted to challenging conditions. For over 2,000 years, Japanese farmers selected plants that thrive in volcanic ash, rocky mountains, and depleted soils without fertilizers or amendments. The wisdom embedded in these crops offers modern gardeners practical solutions for marginal land that conventional vegetables reject. Daikon drills through hardpan. Edamame fixes nitrogen. Sweet potatoes produce more when stressed, and mountain yams mine nutrients from deep subsoil. Your poorest soil, whether compacted clay, sandy waste, or rocky neglect, can become productive with strategic plant selection based on traditional Japanese agriculture. The key is matching crops to conditions rather than fighting nature with amendments. These plants don't just survive poor soil, they thrive in it, turning adversity into abundance through centuries of adaptation. Start with 2 or 3 that suit your conditions and discover that poor soil grows excellent food when you choose the right crops.